Hi, folks. We're Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about trust, and we can be talking about trust at multiple levels. Is social trust, professional trust, general trust, trust in institutions, trust in government. So we've had a situation, certainly in my lifetime, where the trust, the level of just ambient total sort of gross aggregate trust was very high, and certainly from my perspective, I trust in our institutions, our courts, our government. I trust in the for the most part anyway, in sort of my boss and so on. But there are so many interactions that an advanced technical and advanced economic society and a rich society has. There are so many relationships we have with people we don't know, people that we've never met before, people we've met for the first time. So the ability to treat relationships with a certain amount of trust, sort of built-in trust at the outset. So the minute you meet someone, the minute you meet Billy Bob and shake his hand, you already have a certain degree, a certain level of trust. There may not be total trust. You wouldn't hand over your life savings to someone you just met, but the idea of trust, not only an individual level, but at a societal level, an institutional level, and so on, or a professional level. For example, you go and see your doctor for the first time, or it's a new doctor. You assume that the doctor has all the necessary qualifications, credentials, and experience, and so you trust the advice that they give you. So there's a lot of your interaction with professional people and supposed experts. You have again this trust in it's a societal level of trust. I trust that, as we all do, that doctor has met the highest standards and qualifications. They're expert in their field. They've undergone rigorous examination and at multiple levels over many years and multiple times. So if they come out the other end with the qualifications of, in this case, being a medical doctor, then I have trust in that system, that process selection, and so on. So this was kind of how it was. Now, trust could be lost. For example, I had a number of dickhead bosses, especially at a younger age, where I thought, well, why are they cheating me, and why are they telling me lies, and why are they engaging in deceitful behavior to get something they want? But in order to get it, they have to deceive me and trick me. I don't understand that. Why would you do that? And I noticed that in the difference between the more knowledge intensive the level or the type of employment was, the more one had to concede levels of professional, social, and interactive, collaborative trust in someone else. If they're a knowledge worker, you have to, the type of trust you extend is quite different from if they're just a worker that's, I don't know, cleaning the toilets or digging a hole in the road or something like that. And the trust levels or the type of trust are different. For example, I'm talking about like when I'm 14 or 15 and I've got some summer holiday job while I'm still at high school, and the boss says, "Okay, Billy Bob, I want you to dig 2 holes, for example, dig 2 holes in the road here." So okay, come back to me when you've done. So all right, then. So I come back to the boss. Okay, well, I've dug the 2 holes, boss, like you said. And then you get a reaction like, "I don't believe you. You're telling me lies, you fucking scallywag. Show me." And they sort of shouted out, "Show me." Well, I mean, you can see the holes that I've dug for yourself. What is this show me bullshit? I didn't say that, by the way. So the boss would come out in big strides, like, "Yeah, I'm going to find out what a fucking lying little shit you are." And they'd come out and they'd look at the holes and they'd sort of stand there examining them as carefully as if there was some major scientific sort of experiment they had to apply. As a kid, I thought that was rather strange. It's not the way I would have managed people, but hey, what do I know? I'm 14. I don't know shit. So, oh, okay then, all right. Well, dig another two holes over there, but the boss's view was, you haven't done it, or you haven't done as I wanted. You're telling me lies, and I'm gonna hold you to account. That was the instinctive reaction of Matt. Now, bear in mind, these are basic sort of monkey see, monkey do jobs. This is not finding the cure for cancer or something. But the lack of trust in these sort of things was quite. This sort of employment at this level was quite high. Now, staff turnover was, I don't know, reasonably high, I suppose, in some ways, but also as like a casual, just a summer holiday employee, you were pretty much expendable. You did the job, or they got rid of you. It was harder for them to get rid of longer term full-time employees because the unions were quite strong in those days. So maybe they took out their irritation on these casual kids. But also there were other things that caused loss of trust. So my view, when the boss would behave that way, I don't believe you. You're lying to me. I'm going to check on you. I'm watching. Don't think you can get away with anything. Rather than encouraging, sort of filling me with terror that I might get the sack if I didn't do what I was told or something. Rather than do that, I thought, well, if you don't trust me, why the fuck should I trust you? So it becomes mutual distrust under those sort of circumstances, which I believed was counterproductive. I do see the thing behind it, though. There's probably more transient type, young kids, transient workers or whatever, in these low skill or zero skill type industries where you just dig in the hole. But nonetheless, now there are other things that we use. For example, the boss would say, look, something's going to happen at 5 o'clock, so we need to spend, another team of people are coming in to do something. So if you can finish the work that I'm setting you by 4 o'clock, I'm going to let you go home because it's the football final tonight on television, or so. I'll let you go and you'll be paid until 5 o'clock. So get in, do the work, go as hard as you can, finish by 4 o'clock, and so this is what the boss would say. So everyone go, oh wow, we get paid for it. We get to get off early and watch the football, and so everybody would go, would be sweating their asses off and busting their ass to finish the work by 4. And then when it was finished by 4, the boss would go, oh yeah, look, there's been a change in plan. I'm going to have to get you to stay back until 5 o'clock after all. So look, I want you to do this. And the whole thing had been a lie. That just and that sort of, I viewed that as a kid. I viewed that was an act of treachery and deceit and deception. And from then on, if the boss tried anything like that, I just wouldn't believe it. I don't believe that. So again, it unnecessarily created a loss of trust. But why engage in that level of deceit? The boss thought it was some sort of accomplishment. I managed to deceive you, and you bought the deception. So the problem is really yours, not mine. And, that type of attitude. So I came to understand as a kid. I came to understand that in this close workplace, trust was something that really was quite fluid, but there was still an ambient level of trust there that permeated all the relationships. And the more you moved up the knowledge value chain of the work you did, the greater that trust became. Because if you're going to have knowledge workers, you have to, if you're going to be effective even slightly, you have to be able to let them get on with the job and apply their knowledge. If you try and control them as if they're wayward, misbehaving wayward children, trying to do bad things, then they're never going to be able to do the job. You're wasting your time. You might as well just go back to digging holes in the road or something. So trust came in various ways. Now, there was a lack of trust along class lines when I was first a kid starting work. There was sort of the union people, and there was the management. And the management were the big bad capitalist oppressors, and the union workers were the downtrodden ones that were fighting for their rights. There was that, and there was quite a bit. But again, more in the low knowledge work. There was knowledge work to some degree, say in teaching, but then there was Marxist ideological capturing there, because teaching could influence minds, and and create the next generation of communists and so on. So that that was in a sort of a different category. But the ability of people to collaborate, and this was the key thing, that to collaborate with complete strangers and to not be at all fussed by it. So when I first started working, after as a young man, first started working in knowledge work and out of college and everything, that was something that I just took it for granted. You collaborate with people you'd never met before. None of the people that I was working with that I ever met before knew anything about, and they'd come from all over the place. They'd come from this part of Australia or out in the rural areas or in the city or this. I didn't know anyone. There was no one there who went to the schools or colleges that I'd gone to. And this this created an environment of, in order to get the job done, and you accept that, okay, we need to get that job done. We need to accomplish this goal or this objective. In order to do that, and we all agreed that we needed to accomplish the objective. So that was a pre-agreement, which is part of trust and collaboration. Now, once you agree on goals and objectives, then you say, okay, we need to accomplish that, and we accept that that's the outcome, the only outcome that's acceptable. Then we have to collaborate in order to achieve that outcome. That requires a certain amount of trust. And so the sequence went like that. And so I was implicitly trust. They could lose that trust, by the way, by fucking up. But the idea was the ambient temperature of things was that we did trust each other. We trusted each other not to deceive, not to engage in deceit, not to engage in trickery or treachery, not to sort of slack off and not do your fair share or to engage in some sort of subterfuge. We all accepted that each other, we were all going to contribute and we were all going to work together to collaborate quite closely, depending on the technical nature of the task, in order to get the job done with people that we'd never met. We'd only met them 5 minutes ago, but already we were working out how we would collaborate to get the job done. And we relied and depended on each other's skills. Now, not that it all worked perfectly all the time. Sometimes people fucked up. I mean, it happened. But the view was that they had just made a mistake. It was a one-off slip-up. That they wanted to do a good job. They were trying to collaborate as best they could, and they somehow just, or if they fell a little bit short of the knowledge required, the others in the group would attempt to help them to make up that knowledge, assuming it was a small deficit, but to make up that bit and to help them. So they would temporarily cover for them, to assist them. But the never losing sight of that objective. So this was a type of trust that once I started international business traveling, that I only discovered in the West. You just didn't find it anywhere else. It didn't exist. Much to my surprise. Now, it was still possible for people to collaborate in poor countries, third world countries or other places, but only family members, people that knew each other for a long time, had all been to they lived in the same area, so they'd been to the kindergarten together, through school and college. They all knew each other through that, and their families knew each other, and they lived together and socially existed in quite a small, narrow circle of people. So they trusted each other, but they didn't trust people outside of that. Now, they only trusted the white business guy because white companies companies from the West would tend to firstly arrive with leading edge technology, which was always desirable, but also would tend to spend money to win market share in a particular area and compete against other Western companies in the process. So they never trusted us, but they said, well, how much money are you going to get? How much money are you going to give us? Are you just going to hand out shitloads of money? Because in that case, we'll be nice to you and we'll pretend we trust you and we'll have dinners and lunches and breakfast with you. But outside of that, the minute the money gets turned off or stops or slows, then we're not interested. You can fuck off. So trust, the trust in these third world poorer countries, or even just a middle income country, you could almost plot on a chart the level of overall social community trust in each other. Again, whether it be a professional or a social level, but this ability to meet strangers and trust them, at least trust them enough that you collaborate with them to achieve some sort of agreed objective, whether it be in business or whatever. And that wasn't there. I just didn't see it. So once societies get into low trust mode, which the West has pretty much now become, due to the amount of third world, scammers and cheaters and charlatans and parasites that have come in, because they see us in the West as weak. They don't see social trust as a benefit. They see it as a weakness and a naivety to be exploited. They see it quite differently. And they don't see the connection between social trust and wealth creation. When complete strangers, assuming they've got ability and capability and knowledge, when complete strangers can get together and collaborate to achieve a commercial objective, that is the most potent sign of the capacity to create new wealth. That really stands out. Now, so how does this trust come? Now, in the West, did it come because we were all Christians, for example? We're all brought up under a Christian ethos. Did it come that we're all white? Did it come from like if say in rural areas, people live in a small village all their lives, they know who to trust and who not, just because they've been brought up and lived alongside their whole lives with the same people. So I'm talking about socially, as in geographically and socially mobile people that can move around in a big city, different parts of the country. So I'd be sitting alongside someone who came from the other side of Australia or the top of Australia or the southern part of Australia. No one I knew, and no one had come from the suburb or area schools or anything that I had. But I was completely trusting of these people. When I say completely, from an employment, commercial, get the job done perspective. And that sort of trust is nowhere to be found. Now, was it because of the common Christian background? Was it because of common educational background? Was it because, again, because we're all straight white males? What was the and it could be in some extent any or all of those things. But even where I'd go to another, again, business traveling, I go to another country where they're all Islamic, they're all from the same village, they're all the same. They didn't trust each other to anywhere near the extent that we did in the West. So the rich West. So that's still not the same, even though technically at least the same ingredients existed. And some of the Islamic guys that I would sort of get closer to, they would say things, or even Japanese people, they would say things like they would trust me more than they would trust another Islamic guy. And I thought that was true. I thought maybe they were just trying to butter me up or something like that. But their own trust, even amongst people they know, which is the highest level of trust they can achieve, there, even that trust is not high. Or not by Western standards. But the amount of trust now in the West has declined to a point where it's almost unrecognizable from what it was when I was a young man. And the decline has been huge. It's all down to mass migration. And because of the mass migration, because nobody wants it, governments have been, as they would see it, forced to lie and cheat and deceive and engage in all manner of duplicity and treachery. And that in turn has then caused loss of trust in all our institutions. Our institutions, again, are all charged with the propaganda mission of forcing mass migration onto us, the white eradication. So that's all. So trust has been lost at every level and in all directions, to the point now where people can't collaborate anymore. There is no trust left in the bucket that can be put around. Now, again, there's still people who again, there are, when I go to say meetings, the executive team, they all know each other. They've all been to the same high schools and colleges, and they've all worked for the same BlackRock type business, this sort of thing. So they know each other through that sense, and the trust they have, which I wouldn't rate as high, but the trust they have is they're being put together put into the same room by the BlackRocks, and therefore there has to be some degree of not rock the boat type collaboration rather than willing collaboration and agreeing to achieve objectives. So even that level of social trust or type of social trust has changed. But because of affirmative action in employment now, I don't believe that the doctor I meet is actually properly qualified, or the nurse is properly qualified. I don't believe that if the plumber or the electrician is brown or black, I don't believe they've met a standard. So the loss of trust and the cascading effect that it had has gone in all directions. And so we've lost the trust. And that trust was the essential engine of new wealth creation, which I believe we've also lost. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.